Okay, page 70, number 10. Okay, that question there, that entire one addresses something called the discriminant. In the quadratic equation or formula here, it's, negative b plus or minus b squared minus 4ac on top of 2a. We call this thing here, right? We call what's inside the square root here, we call that the discriminant. Okay, that there is what we call the discriminant. And it tells us this, if I can spell it, that would be very nice. Discriminant. Okay, and that tells us a lot. Okay, um, basically, what can happen when you're sketching parabolas is basically three things. The parabola could do something like this, right? It could cross the x-axis at two spots, in which case, if you're going to know that if the inside here, if that b squared, right, if that b squared minus 4ac is anything positive, if it's a positive number here, then what you're going to have is a value plus something divided by, and you're going to have a value minus something divided by. So it's going to generate two roots as long as that inside is positive. Now, another scenario is something like this. I mean, it could also go down, right? Down or up doesn't matter. Um, that's all dependent on the value of a in standard form. If it's negative, it's going down. But the point is, this here is going to happen whenever b squared minus 4ac is 0. Because if this ends up being 0, right, the square root of 0 is nothing, it's just 0, you're left with an x-intercept, right? X-intercept that is just whatever this is divided by 2a. So, you know what I mean? Like this gets wiped out to 0, so you only have one root. There it is. And the other possibility is that you have a parabola, whether it's going up or down. Well, in this case, it would have, and if I put it there, it would have to go up. But the point is, it's never crossing the x-axis here. Okay, and so when is that going to happen? In other words, it's impossible for this parabola to ever cross the x-axis the way I drew it. That's going to have a discriminant, right? B squared minus 4ac, right? That it's got to be something impossible. Well, the square root of what is impossible? A negative number. You can't square root a negative number. So if that b squared minus 4ac is anything negative, you're going to run into a scenario where the parabola has no roots. Okay, so if I look at 10a, okay, I'll try to squeeze that in here. If I look at 10a, which is this parabola here, 3x squared plus 4x minus 5, the reason they put a 0 there, not a y, is because they're trying to figure out what are the x-intercepts of this thing. I mean, again, it might have 2, it might have 1, or it might have none. And the answer lies in the value of the discriminant. So let's just plug in to b squared minus 4ac, right? And again, that's my b, which is 4. So 4 squared minus 4, my value of a is 3, and my value of c is negative 5. I get what? I get 16. I'm getting a negative 12 times negative 5 is positive 60, I believe, which is a 76. And because that number is positive, right, that's bigger than 0, what scenario, which one of these three scenarios are we dealing with? This one right here. Therefore, what do we have? It's guaranteed going to have two roots. Okay, if we continue and look now at b, here I am with negative 2x squared plus 5x minus 1 equals 0. Does this parabola cut the x-axis at one spot, two spots, or no spots, right? One of those three things are going to happen. So again, plug in 2, right, because they're asking me to just use the discriminant. They're not saying find the roots, they're just saying how many are there. So sub in, right, I've got a 5 squared minus 4a, and my c is negative 1. So what am I getting in this case? I'm getting a 25, and I'm getting a, what is this going to give me? Did I do that properly here? So b squared is 5 minus 4ac. Yeah, so I'm getting 25 take away 8, right? 25 take away 8 is, sorry, I shouldn't be setting this to 0. All I'm trying to do is figure out the value of b squared minus 4ac, right? I'm just trying to figure it out, right? I'm just trying to figure out the value of that, and it's generating what? It's generating 17. And again, because that's 17, I wish it would have been a different example, but because that is 17, which is bigger than 0, right? We conclude, again, that there are, right? It's this scenario right here. There would be 2 roots to this, okay? 2 roots to that. And then the last one, hopefully, is a different scenario. 9x squared, okay, minus 12x plus 4 equals 0. Let's go ahead and sub in to our b squared minus 4ac to get negative 12 in brackets. Hey, be careful, put that in brackets. You're never, like, when you square your b, it'll never be a negative number. It's always a positive because it's either you're squaring a negative or you're squaring a positive. It's always a positive. And then minus my 4ac. What do I get? I get 144, and I'm getting, take away what here? 36 times 4 is another 144, I believe, okay? And which gives 0. So because my b squared minus 4ac is 0, I'm getting, it's this scenario here. Therefore, there would be 1 root. Okay, I wish this would have been a negative, but anyway, had the b squared minus 4ac generated a negative number, you would have said no roots. Okay, so that should be it for 10.